Friday Heaters. Today we're at the David Zwirner Gallery for the Lisa Yuskavage show. Let's heat it up.
This is Lisa's first show in LA in almost 30 years. What she's doing is using her LA shows 30 years ago and now to really bookend her own art history. She's referencing so many of her own works, specific works, sometimes slightly altered works in these paintings. And every painting in the show is situated in an artist's studio, in her studio.
Okay.
It's sort of a fantasy of her studio, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I was wondering, because this takes me to like upstairs attic,
Totally,
kind of basement
yeah.
world.
They all have a little bit of a kind of romantic kind of idea of a studio.
Yeah.
But she told us she started during COVID playing around. She inserted her characters and motifs, and that started this whole process. It was a way for her to talk about her own art history, her own ideas about her art, what she's trying to accomplish by locating in the studio. And often artists like Brock or Matisse or whoever will make one or two paintings, like studio paintings.
Okay.
But of course she's made years worth of work now. And that's what this show is.
When you say studio paintings, you mean like the paintings of their
studio,
space?
A studio or their studio.
Okay.
Or an imagined studio that's theirs. So she's referring to other studio paintings, other artists, other 20th century artists that she's interested in, and then just playing with all these notions of her own art history. So they're really complicated, they're really layered. They often contain many paintings that are referencing older works or even older styles of work.
Yeah.
So that's really the entry point to this show.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you know that, then you really can start to explore in an easier way.
So there's the imagination of where these studios are set, but at the same time, could someone follow all these different breadcrumbs and figure out exactly all the different
in many
symbols, or
cases, you
some of it
could.
loose?
You get pretty close. She might know that she's changed a couple things.
Sure.
So there's a green painting in the other room. That's a very well-known painting. I think the Met owns it, and it's very similar to the one, but it's not exactly. And she's like, well, that's almost the painting, but it's not exactly the painting.
Yeah.
So this painting is the earliest painting in the show, 2022. And so this is a good jumping off point.
Okay.
It's like, I think is it called In the Artist Studio? If you were standing in the painting and you were to go walk around to the back of that painting, that's that painting.
Okay. Walk to the back of this.
Yeah.
So the back, okay.
So you see the figure in the red skirt?
Yeah.
In the background? That's the figure in the foreground.
Okay, yeah. Got it. We'll do that jump cut.
This is the front of the painting, and that's the back of that painting.
Okay.
This is really part of the self-referentiality of her work in this show, really looking at her own work. And this painting is very clearly referring to Las Meninas, the painting by Velázquez. This mirror is very much like taken from that painting. Okay. And what's interesting is the reflection is you. You're the person that's reflected in that.
Yeah. Mirror. And I've always wondered, being newer to Lisa's work, I mean, the repeating figure is often voluptuous, blonde. Like, who is that figure? Do we know?
She talks about that in different ways. I think she's always pushing the boundaries of taste, and she's looking at her own background of being from a working class background, almost like trashy car culture, biker culture, and inserting them into these art spaces of high art.
Sure.
She got a lot of confused and often negative feedback for that kind of figure.
Yeah, I feel like
when
I've
she
heard
first
that.
started, no one knew what to make of it. No one knew what she was saying about women or feminism, if she was saying anything at all. But what's interesting about these paintings, they take that conversation away from whether you think it's prurient or sexy. It's not about that at all. Yeah. It's actually, you realize it's about color, it's about the composition, it's about these art historical references. Yeah. And these are kind of vehicles, but it's really interesting that there are different kinds of moments from her career that are represented by different styles of these figures. Yeah. This painting has so many of them in it.
Yeah, it's funny, the painters that I know, when I ask them what they think of the show, that people are excited about the painting technique and her skill.
Well, and you can see that every painting has a different color ground. Like there's gray or there's red underneath, and that really informs, how the paintings feel. Yeah. There are a lot of gray paintings in this. There's a lot of gray. That one, the gray background. There are small gray paintings. She did a couple years that she just painted green paintings, and green paintings are notoriously, people don't in theory, they think they don't like them. They think they're hard to sell.
Yeah.
And then, she kind of heard that. And of course, being Lisa, she just went for it. She's like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to paint.
Yeah, I think, admittedly, when I think of her colors, it's probably like the pinks and the greens that come to my mind as a new fan.
I always look at in her paintings are these orbs, whether it's a nipple, whether it's the painting on the clothes, whether it's the apples. They pop up a lot in her work. And they're beautiful. They're kind of these little
not
things that
super
you focus
defined,
on.
but just
And then what she says is, the small paintings are really important to her practice. Many times the small paintings come before. They're kind of studies for bigger paintings.
Okay.
But occasionally she makes small paintings after the big paintings. What she says is that she'll make the small painting, kind of work out what she wants to do in a larger painting, pare it down, focus on what she's doing on the larger canvas, and then turns up the volume. But then sometimes she goes back and then she has other things she wants to play around with, and she'll make small paintings after the big painting.
The small ones are really good. I mean, it's the first time I've seen, but they're like so...
This one is so packed.
Yeah, packed, but still very defined and not messy. It almost feels like painting sticky notes. Like these are versions of her sticky notes on a wall.
So she did that. She was talking about that painting over there and putting, actually painting in the taped references that she had on the wall. She's like, well, what if I just painted those in? And so that was a real innovation. And this is called painter painting. This is her. I mean, it's a self-portrait. This painting, which we had at Frieze, is this painting.
Yes, the layers are just, I mean, not only visually fun, but just symbolically fun too, to know that they're all tied together. This is a great show. I mean,
it's a great show. We've had all these, a lot of painters come in here, repeatedly, who come back, when nobody's here, and they kind of just want to sit and see how she does it, because she's really a master.
She's formally trained, right? And
yeah, she went to Yale, and one of her best friends then and now is John Curran. Okay. So sometimes people look at their work kind of yin and yang. I mean, they look at them, compare them. I mean, I think they're both great painters. I think she's
special.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is painting or something very similar is in the Met.
Okay.
But it's not exact. She's like, well, it's not the exact same painting, but it's pretty close to that painting. There's another great small one right here.
Yeah, again, something about just all of the detail and packed. You said packed before.
Yeah, and even just these details, like that orb.
Yeah.
These are very classic things. And then I think some of the later paintings, these peacocks are appearing, and that's pretty new.
It's interesting to me too to think of when I normally think of diptychs or triptychs, it's the big.
These feel like 14th century. The scale is old master.
Yeah. When she's painting big canvases, is that kind of her setup? Does she get up on a platform?
I've never seen her do that, but I maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a fantasy of an artist studio too. It's kind of. I'm not sure she has these big clips on her.
Yeah, right.
on her easels. Yeah.
Maybe in the 21st century, the sawhorse would not be the thing to balance on a piece of plywood.
Well, that's actually really interesting. Now, I actually didn't notice that because that's very precarious. Right?
Right. I mean, maybe there's another one here, but maybe not.
Maybe, it's almost
the paint could be balancing.
It's almost like a commentary on what it is to be an artist. So.
Yeah. Heater's observations.
It's really great to see the small ones and how they evolve too.
Yeah.
Because the scale is really important to her. This is the smallest scale one.
Yeah, I noticed that one. I find myself being as equally interested in the small as the big.
They really hold your attention. They hold the wall for sure.
Yeah. Again, this is a smaller study from the bigger one across the room. I do wonder how many studies are in each of these studies. These are studies, of old studies, of new studies. So Lisa is probably the pro that would truly know. But I think what's fun with these studies is or maybe all of the work, there's definitely a self-referential element to it because we see her painting, herself here painting. It's fun to think of that 30-year history, 30 years since she's been in LA with a show. We're trying to connect the dots here of which paintings appear in which other paintings multiple times. But here, I think this green painting here in the background, and I think it's close enough that we can say that is the same painting. And also the same figure. This whole thing is actually, wow, that's how unsophisticated I am in moments. I was looking at the painting, but this is the study for the big guy. It's cool how the faces are a little undefined, maybe especially on the nudes, there's less face definition, kind of keeps it mysterious. I think this one might be my favorite. Something about the gray that we were talking about earlier. And then again, just seeing the artist, kind of the small figure. I mean, she's much smaller scale here with this like big table and like obviously the big painting she's painting. I guess just the scale of this one, I like. Something about the vividness of the red color, but then the haziness of the gray. Oh, and here's the reference in the previous. Yeah, in the previous one, the study, it was like written lines, and then she switched it to be a drawing. Kind of cool. We've got two paintings facing each other, and there's the front of the painting that you're seeing. This is the back of the painting. Front of the painting, back of the painting. This like mirror moment where it again makes my head think, wait, okay, where are we in these two spaces? And I'm not sure, but here we are, reflected in the mirror. Yeah, with our camera, we are doing what that person, so you, the audience right now, are this person. You can just imagine yourself, you're there. It's looking back directly at you. Her combination of like low art, high art, and how she's bringing in imaginative, expressive, figurative work that she accentuates some of this, the voluptuousness of the female figure, but almost it's in this really refined way. You have this smashing of like pop culture and high art in her work. And when I learned of that, I think it helped to, I guess, contextualize like, how do I interpret some of these figures? It makes me appreciate it more now, just the combination of provocative, raunchy, in combination with like really sophisticated high-level painting and high art. Sexuality is here, it's sensual, but it's not exclusively that. There's a, I don't know, kind of a fairy tale imagination that broadens it to be more than just, whoa, check out these female forms. Anybody out there 30 years ago who was doubting Lisa's capacity, here we are now, 30 years later. She's got arguably one of the biggest shows in LA at maybe one of the biggest galleries in LA. Just flexing that past work, the new work, all in one. Layers and layers and layers of heat. Studies on studies on studies on studies. Whew. It's getting hot in here.